Hi, everyone. This paper addresses the problem of how to interpret the outcomes and impact of civic initiatives beyond the projects they stem from and in relation to the local context they're bound to. The contribution can be summarized as follows. First, the paper develops a lens and a vocabulary to unpack how the outcomes of community-driven initiatives circulate locally, while creating new opportunities for actions, even beyond the direct encounters with technology. The paper does it by drawing on the notion of ecologies of participation, which challenges views of participation as event-based. Moreover, the paper provides 4 analytical sensitivities that can assist CSCW research in assessing impact over a long time trajectory. This work draws on Chilver's conceptualization of ecologies of participation, which stresses that participation is always relational and entangled within wider sociocultural and institutional contexts. It puts emphasis on the various actors, single individuals, collectives of people, organization, the different objectives, and the many modes of participation that might be drawn together in the processes of appropriating socio-technical innovation. And this relational focus is key to unpack the interdependencies between projects, resources, people, and the meanings they create, and thus to understand how impact is reconfigured as certain projects' outcomes are appropriated locally. And the political is to be understood as the capacity of these ecologies to articulate new understandings and actions aiming at social change. The paper is based on a past study of an interactive theater performance and how it unexpectedly found its way into a local neighborhood. This work was published at CHI 2017, and I need to quickly introduce it before I can get into the details of this contribution. So Hymen was an interactive theater performance whose main vision was to contest mainstream narratives about an economically challenged suburb in Stockholm. The performance was supposed to be experienced through a dedicated mobile app on a subway train traveling from Stockholm city center to the neighborhood in question. During the journey, audience members could experience a filmed theater play, and in between each scene, they would be asked a question related to the neighborhood and the social unrest that had attracted a lot of media attention at the time. The audience members' answers would then be shared and made visible through the app. Once reached the neighborhood in question, audience members would get off the train and be met by a chorus chanting some of the audience answers on the main square of the neighborhood. And one of the conclusions of this investigation was that the theater performance was a story of failure and success. A large number of audience members had experienced it on the subway train, but local residents were not part of this group of people. But then about 1.5 years later, I got to know about the mural you can see here on the upper right, which is a representation of the chorus in the performance. And this is an installation of about 8 square meters and is part of a broader mural called Local Heroes. I don't have time to tell you the full story here, but the idea to develop a mural came from a housing company that owns several multi-apartment buildings in the area. And the project was then executed by a local NGO working with participatory community art. So once I discovered the mural, I decided to re-engage with the local context to understand what lay behind the transformation of the chorus into the mural. And overall, this work draws on 2 phases of qualitative data collection, and details about the methodology can be found in the paper. The analysis unpacks 4 themes, and I quickly introduce 3 of them here. The first one relates to how impact can be understood through the local circulation of project outcomes and through the relationships that different actors develop with each other, sometimes activating new initiatives or shaping ongoing ones. For instance, the suggestion to work with the theme local heroes was made during brainstorming workshops the NGO facilitated, while the idea to include the chorus was made by a local resident who had experienced the chorus firsthand on the square. And what is interesting here is that the relationships between the interactive performance and its director and the work of the NGO were indirect, yet they converged as the two projects drew on each other in addressing neighborhood-centered concerns. On the other hand, the building company who commissioned the mural had an explicit collaboration with the NGO that was formally defined. In both cases, investigating how actors become interconnected moves away from the idea that single initiatives always leave a meaningful mark that is immediately recognized. The second theme unravels how impact can be understood through ongoing reconfigurations of meanings that different actors and initiatives contribute to create. Interweaving meanings thus illustrates the relationships between different participatory projects and how issues are added to shared concerns. One of the outcomes of participation in the performance was, for instance, the audience reflections on the neighborhood and the social unrest through the text entries that were shared in the app. The chorus then played a central role in adding a public dimension to them. In the process of becoming a mural, the relevance of the chorus becomes associated with an event in which local women stood out by acting in the performance to the extent that they were now being portrayed as local heroes. And this point shows how reframings of the unrest through the performance and the mural collectively redefine impact as the capacity to give visibility to an urban area, recognize the role of local residents, and inspire pride in the cultural identity of the neighborhood. And these processes of sense-making are tightly connected to claims to representations of place, which defines the political qualities of ecologies of participation. The mural, for instance, was supposed to contest stereotypical representations and reinvigorate narratives about women-centered initiatives as well rooted in the area. But again, this social impact should be understood as an emerging ethos that derives from a number of interconnected initiatives that proliferate locally. So to conclude, ecologies of participation are inherently open, which acknowledges the multiple parties that can shape the outcomes and the impact of socially engaged projects. To listen politically is to detect the traces of not yet articulated common agendas, as Anna Tsing puts it. And this reorients impact towards cohorts of people not originally involved in a project, marking a difference from previous understandings of impact within participatory design and socially engaged art. And reflecting on the long impact of community-led initiatives recognizes that digital technology can sometimes be marginal. I would have not been able to understand the local relevance of the performance if I had only considered the app-locked data as an indicator of its long-term significance. To conclude, I present 3 of the 4 analytical sensitivities that unpack impact through the lens of ecologies of participation. First, understanding what outcomes are regarded as locally relevant entails investigation of how links among actors are created and initiatives activated or connected with each other. Second, people bring their experience with them as they relocate, move between organizations, or participate in several civic initiatives. And this can make some projects more visible or define what goals such initiatives should strive for. So in assessing how impact is configured, research should therefore explore participants' direct or indirect involvement in other local initiatives. Finally, investigating how initiatives draw from each other in adopting, tailoring technologies or specific templates for participation helps frame impact as additive. Generalizing to other domains, for instance, Some of the meter groups in Sweden have replicated the same use of Instagram to share stories, thus making it very explicit how they add and connect to each other to scale up their impact and redefine its meanings. As always, you'll find much more in the paper, and thank you all for listening.